So today's topic is formulation of research proposal. So how do we formulate a research proposal? So this topic is required not only for in MA Geography classes, in the syllabus of MA Geography classes, but this is also a very important class, very important topic for those students or those people, those researchers who are going to start some research. That may be MPhil students, that may be PhD students, or also teachers who are undergoing various researches or who are taking various researches, so research projects, etc. So how do we formulate a research proposal? Now we must understand what do we mean by a research proposal. What is a research proposal? So a research proposal is what, as you are seeing, it is a document, and that document provides a detailed description of what you intend to do, what you intend to research, what is your research objective. It is also the outline of the entire research process. So it is not the entire summary of your research, the result of your research. It is not the result of your research, but it is the outline of the entire research process. So we will see in the course of this what is the outline, what should be there in the outline, etc. So in the research proposal, you must write the objectives. So the objectives will help you to describe that what you intend to do and why you have chosen the objective. What is the requirement of choosing the objectives that you have chosen, and what you are expecting will be the result. Now, what is the importance of research proposal? Why a research proposal is important? So first of all, it helps the researcher to examine what he intends to do. Not only the researcher, it also helps those who will examine the research work to examine what the researcher intends to do. Secondly, this also serves as a document of contract for the project. That means you cannot, since you have already the outline, so you cannot go beyond the outline. Whatever objectives you have mentioned, you have to abide by the objectives that has been mentioned. You cannot do anything less. You cannot do anything apart from that. Of course, you can do more than that, but you cannot change the course of the research. That cannot be done. It is also for people who have knowledge in the field. So this will help you when you have a research proposal. You can easily discuss the research with your professors or people who have knowledge in that field. It also, the research proposal also gives an overview of the research proposal. So a person can, or others apart from you, apart from the researcher, they can easily understand when they check you, when they see your research proposal, they can easily understand the scope of the research, the significance of the research, what is the proposed methodology that you have adopted, what are the methods that you will be adopting, what is the objective, what is the end result, etc. So these things can easily be understood when you see a research proposal. Now, what is the advantage of that kind of research proposal? Now, first of all, as I have already said, that research proposal not only it is intended for only the students. Generally, it is also, apart from students, this is also taken up by various faculty members, that is various professors or teachers. They also take up various research proposals. But when they do so, the only difference is that, like for example, in the case of students, of course, you students also get JRF or various kinds of fundings for your research. Similarly, faculties also, they can also send their research proposal to various funding authorities. Like for example, ICSSR for the social science researchers, ICSR, there is DST for the science botanist people, there is DBT, etc. There are lots of such funding agencies. And the intended proposal is sent to these funding agencies for support, for fund support. When the support is, when the fund is allocated, then the researchers can work according to his or her research proposal. So this is one of the advantage, that is Based on your research proposal, based on what you write in that proposal, if the funding authorities think that yes, your research proposal is good enough to support, then they might support. So this helps the research proposal. When you frame the research proposal, it helps in the funding. It also helps one to review and evaluate the research program. When you make the research proposal, then what happens? You just try to see, you try to critically evaluate what are your objectives, because those things are all in a point. So you can modify your objectives, etc. So these are the various other advantages of a research proposals. It keeps you focused because it has got the outline, so it keeps you focused on your research programs. As I had said in the previous slide, you, when you have a research proposal, you know that yes, these are the objectives and I have to abide by the objectives. Like most of you have worked on various short-term dissertations works, various short-term research works. So you know that you have to, when you are given one objective, so you know that you have to abide by your objective. When you know that yes, you have been given a methodology, so you know that you will have to abide by the methodology. So when you are given, when you write point number 1, 2, and 3 as objectives, then you know that you have to complete your 1, 2, and 3 of course. You do not, you know that you do not need to jump into some other objective. So and also, when, since many of you have worked on researches based upon your research proposals, many of you have worked on dissertations, etc. So you know that this while you write a research proposal, when you frame a research proposals, various novel ideas also comes up. You, a researcher tries to find out various novel ideas wherein he or she might be interested to work in. Now these are the various other advantages as you are seeing over here. Now researchers, when we speak about research proposal, generally there are two types of research proposals. One is the minor research proposal and one is the major research proposal. And these kinds of research proposals, as I have said earlier in the first point, generally these types of research proposals are taken up when it is minor or major research proposal. These are generally taken up by the various faculty members or the various established scientists, etc., who tries to find support for the financial support for their research. So they have to either categorize their research as whether their research is a minor research or it is a major research. Generally, if it is less than 5 lakhs rupees, if the total budget is less than 5 lakhs of rupees, then it is termed as minor research proposal. And generally, these proposals are completed within 1 year or 1.5 years. And when it is a major research proposal, then it is the total budget must be above 5 lakhs rupees and more than 1.5 years. Now let us see what are the basic components of a research proposal. When you write a research proposal, you must take into consideration these various components. These components must be in your research proposal. Otherwise, generally, that research proposal is thought to be not well formulated. So first of all, it should have a title. It should have a brief introduction, what you are aiming to do. It should have a review of literature. Then comes the objectives, hypothesis. What is the relevance of your study to the society? Is it any relevant, or you are just doing it to get a degree? What methodologies will you be adopting? What is a time schedule? You must have a time schedule and according to it a work plan. It can't go on and on for eternity. What is a budget and what is a justification for your budget? The references and appendix. Now we will see what is in detail. Now what do we mean by the title? Now a proposal should have a title and that title should be concise. It should not be a very lengthy title. It should be very short and at the same time it should be informative and catchy. It should be informative in the sense that from the title itself, the reader must understand what exactly he or she wants to do. So it should be informative. And in the proposal itself, the objective must be well spelled out. that does not mean that if you have 5 objectives or 6 objectives, etc., so all the objectives must be in the title itself. So, for example, I say that, like for example, if I say that landslide susceptibility mapping, so this title is not right. If I just say landslide susceptibility mapping, this is not a proper title. Of course, this title is concise. This is also informative. How informative? Because I am saying to the reader that I want to do landslide susceptibility mapping. But then it lacks certain things. What it lacks, we have to mention that it is important to specify who and where, what will be examined, investigated. So if I said landslide susceptibility mapping, so in which area of the world am I going to do that mapping? So I must mention that, okay, landslide susceptibility mapping of maybe Mizoram, or maybe a place in Northeast India or wherever I want to do, or maybe landslide susceptibility mapping of Uttarkashi, etc. So I have to specify that exactly where I want to investigate this. At the same time, you might find titles which also includes the methodology. Now, methodology should never be included. For example, if I say landslide susceptibility mapping using this technique, AHP technique, or using machine learning techniques, so that is not a title. Methodology should never be included in the title. But at the same time, your ultimate objective is being reflected. When I said landslide susceptibility mapping, so what is the ultimate objective? The ultimate objective is, there might be, when a person does landslide susceptibility studies, then there are various steps, there are various objectives, but the ultimate result is a landslide susceptibility map or zonation of the region. So that ultimate thing is, right now it is there, right now it is reflected in the title. When I say landslide susceptibility mapping of Uttarkashi or of Mizoram, then I am mentioning it is a concise, it gives information to the readers what I intend to do. It also gives information to the ultimate objective. It does not use any methodology. It also uses some keywords, like the keyword is over here is what? Landslide. It is susceptibility, Mizoram, etc. These are the keywords. It also mentions the where of the area it will be investigated. Next, let us come to the introduction part. Now, any proposal, it should start with an introduction. So without introduction, the proposal is not valid. So to support your argument, to support your research, and to show that although such research might have taken place, but you have to say if it is taking place. Like for example, if I say that landslide susceptible mapping, of course it has taken place, but not in that study area. So to support your research, to support that such work has not taken place in the study area, to say that yes, your work is unique, or what are the problems in the study area. So these are included in the introduction. So an introduction provides with some background information. So what sort of background information? First of all, statement of problem. What is the problem? Is landslide is a problem in the study area? So statement of problem is required. Where you are going to conduct this work, because there should not be any repetition of work. It should not be that some other person has worked on the same area with the same technique and you are also doing the same thing. That is not a research. You have to provide the significance of your study, the justification of your study. How is it important to the readers? How is it important to the study area? How is it important to the research community? Why such kind of work should be done? For example, if I say that landslide susceptibility mapping of Mizoram, Then why is it important? It is important because such kind of maybe work has not been done, or maybe such kind of work, when I do a research ransom susceptibility mapping, then of course the planners, the government will be able to work on the slopes or on the regions which are having more probability of landslide, etc. So that will help in saving lives and property. So you must provide the significance and why that work is necessary. And also through introduction, the researcher orients the readers to the topic. Now here I have given a small example. Suppose you are going to investigate the impact of immigration on the family. So when that is done, so you must follow these steps. When supposing the research is to investigate the impact of immigration on the family. So these are the various steps which you must, in the introduction, you must follow. For example, when I am speaking of immigration, so the origin of the various migratory movements in the world should be mentioned in the introduction. So slowly see how the reader is oriented to the topic. Then what are the various general theories towards migration? What are the reasons for migration, etc. So these are the various topics, various points which should be written in the introduction, and slowly these will orient the readers towards the topic. Next comes the review of literature. Now, most of you know what is review of literature. So, when in the review of literature, what we do is that we provide similar kind of work which is already done in the past. But these are just not summaries that you just put some summaries of some work which has been done in very concise form. They are not that. Why review of literature is written is given is in research is that, of course, we do give summaries of earlier works, but through review of literature we actually want to show to the reader, to the funders, to the financiers, that yes, that those kinds of works has already been done, but there are some voids. Through review of literature we are actually showing the voids and these gaps which needs to be filled through your research. Like for example, you can say, if I take the same topic, for example, I take landslide susceptibility mapping of Aizawl district of Mizoram, then maybe I will of course give various review of literatures from landslide susceptibility mapping. But at the same time, from all the review of literature, maybe there is no review of literature, there is no work on the topic in the study area. Then through the review of literatures, maybe I give review of literature from various parts of the world, hilly places of the world, various parts of India, various parts of Northeast, but I am not able to give any review of literature from my study area. So therein lies the gap. Or maybe through review of literature, various kinds of works has been done. For example, springs. Our Northeast is blessed with various springs, so maybe various works on water resources has been done, but maybe there is no work on the spring. So I cannot give any review of literature from springs, wherein work has been done on springs. So I mentioned that although these are the various review of literatures which has been done, these are the various works on water resources in Northeast India or all over India or all over world, etc. But there is no work on my objective based on the study area. So, through your literature review, you are convincing the reader that your research topic, your research area is significant, it needs to be done, that there are certain gaps which needs to be addressed. For example, just now I told about springs. Now, springs are a lifeline for Northeast India, especially Mizoram, but not much work has been done on springs in Mizoram. So you have to, if you want to do some research in springs, so you are convincing through review of literature that although there are various water resources, review of literature has been done, various works has been done. See, these are the various summaries, but there is no work on springs in Mizoram. So you are justifying your research ideas. If you are working on springs, so you are justifying, since no work has been done, I am going to work through these methodology. So that is why review of literature is important. Next comes one of the most important part, that is the objective of the study. Now, what are objectives? Objectives are the specific steps which you are going to take to achieve the aim. So, to achieve the ultimate aim of your research, you are going to take certain objectives that will give you the ultimate aim. So, the aim is the what of the research, and the objectives are the how of the research. So, maybe what I want to do, I want to just work on the spring as water resource of the of Mizoram. And how I want to do, there might be various steps of how I want to do. I want to map the springs and I want to study the springs, etc. etc. So these are the objectives of how you want to do. And what you want to do, you want to work on the springs of Mizoram. What is your ultimate aim? Your ultimate aim is to study the landslide. What are the areas which are prone to landslide in Aizawl district, and what are the areas which are safe from landslide in Aizawl district? That is the what of your study. How you want to do? You want to do by studying the land use, land cover of the region, by studying the lineament density of the region, by studying the geology of the region, by studying the earlier cases of landslide in the region. So this is the how you are doing to achieve your ultimate aim. That is the what. So I hope the objective of the study is understood. So these are the goals which has to be achieved by conducting the research. Now, while writing the objectives of the study, we see that students do certain basic mistakes. Now, when you frame the objectives, it should start with action verb. What are the action verb? Direct, you must directly say to compare, to analyze, to calculate, to describe, to determine, etc. It should not be, I want to understand, to believe, to appreciate, etc. Not these kinds of non-action words. It should be direct action-oriented work. Like I have given some examples over here. So you can, these are certain examples from one of my research work. So you can just go through the what has been written over here to determine various spatial, etc. To integrate, to disseminate. So these are direct objectives. I have not written I want to understand, I want to believe, etc. So I hope the objectives of the study is clear to you. Then is the hypothesis. Hypothesis is a statement of your assumptions which needs to be proved. Now regarding hypothesis, I won't go into details into hypothesis because I have already taken a class on hypothesis earlier. So you can go through the earlier class. Next comes the methodology, another very important aspect of a research. And there is no research which does not have any methodology. Every research will have methodologies. So these are the various methodologies that are taken in a research. First of all, it should cover the design of the study. What is the ultimate population of the sample? Ultimate, how many samples will you take? And that sample will represent how exactly what population. What are the instruments you are going to use? What have you done any pilot study? What is the method of your data collection? How will you analyze the data? Like for geography, are you using any GIS softwares, any statistical analysis tools, etc.? So these are the various methodologies that are adopted, that are taken when you adopt your research. So these will have to be kept in mind. So next, let us see the work schedule. Just like I was saying before, that whatever you are working, whatever you have the methodology, etc. So you cannot work for eternity. You must have a fixed schedule. When you do research, you must have a work schedule. So when you have a work schedule, that will keep you in track. So just like you are seeing over here, whatever tasks you have, you already have the objectives, you have the methodology. So whatever tasks you have, that must be divided into certain weeks or months, etc., so that the entire work is completed within a stipulated amount of time. So, for example, if you are having like 1 year. For example, this is a minor research project and you have got 1 year. So in that case, so this will end over here. If this is month, so this will end over here in the 12th month. So the entire thing should be formulated in a way that it ends in the 12th month. So what is a work schedule? It is an overview of the task or the proposed activities and the time frame for that respective task. So here you put the weeks or the days or the months in one hand and the tasks which needs to be achieved on the other hand. And then you can put flat lines or arrows, etc., to indicate what task will require what amount of time. For example, over here, data collection. So data collection will be starting from the 5th week or the 5th month, and this will go on till the 7th month. So this indicates that. So then, for example, typing is a very important work. So this will go on from the 11th month and it will end in the 15th month. So maybe this research work is going on till 15th month. It has to be completed and submitted within the 15th month. So you see, this is how the work schedule is formulated. Next, we have this is for funding for all those research projects which goes for funding. So over there, when you seek a certain amount of budget, when you then you must also provide justification of that budget. So, for example, this is for a 3 year major project. Then the person has to mention that for manpower, how much rupees is how much money is required for the various these things, the various research heads, the various budgetary heads. Now, this is just an example. It can be these heads, it cannot be these heads, but whatever heads under which budget or money is being sought. So the researcher has to give justification, proper justification for that equipment or that budget. For example, if the person, let us take the current example of landslide susceptibility mapping. So for that, traveling is an important component of the budget. So in justification, the researcher has to give yes, because the researcher has to go from one place to another, the various landslide points. So that is why that will require travel cost. So like that, justification has to be provided. Then we come to the bibliography and the references portion. Now, I am sure that all of you are aware of what is a bibliography and what are the various references. So whatever references you are providing within the text, within the research proposal, all these references should be mentioned in details in bibliography or reference section at the end of towards the end of the research proposal. Then we find the appendixes. Now, what this comes towards the last of the research proposal. Now, many a times we have to give the interview protocols which has been undertaken. So the appendix should include all those things. So maybe the various sampling has been done. So the format of the sampling has to be given over there. The various questionnaires has been framed. So you can give a copy of one of the questionnaires, the format of that. The various official permission letters has been taken. So you can just put those things in the appendix. So these are the various things that might come in the appendixes. So, so this is all about research proposal, or how we formulate a research proposal.